Okay, welcome to the first module of the WordPress web design course. In this module I'm going to very quickly run through a few slides. This is pretty much the only module that uses slides. The rest of it is going to be video led, so you're actually going to see me working, see me setting up sites, developing sites, and you'll be able to follow the video led course. This is just a few slides just to run through some terminology that you're going to need to understand what the meaning of the terminology I'm using relates to. So let's just run through it really quickly. Domains, IP addresses, domain extensions. What is a domain? A domain is the word or the phrase that we use in order to locate a website. So my domain is wordpresswebdesigncourse.com, and that's what you've perhaps found this course on or used typed in order to find this course. So we're all familiar with a domain. Now, what you may not know is that there is a number behind that word that you're typing in, or that phrase that you're typing in, and that number is known as an IP address. Now, typically an IP address might take the form of, for instance, 172.189.150.219. That's what an IP address sounds like. Now, that's obviously really difficult for us to remember, so the people that developed the internet, in their wisdom, decided that it would be a good idea if we use words and phrases instead of numbers. But nevertheless, the numbers are still there because that's what the computer understands. So behind a domain name is always an IP address, and we'll come on to the details of that a little later. Domain extensions is the bit that comes after the main bit of the domain name. So WordPressWebDesignCourse.com would be the domain extension. The .com part is the domain extension. Obviously, there are countless other domain extensions: .co.uk, .nl, .fr. Generally, each country has their own domain extension, but there are also lots of others now that are coming into use as they're expanding the internet. So, for instance, there's some domain extensions like .travel, .info, .lifestyle, that kind of domain extension. I'm not a great fan of those. I much prefer to stick to either .com or .co.uk, certainly for business use anyway. Okay, moving on, domain registration and domain renewal. So basically what happens is when you want to register a domain name, you have to register it to either an individual or a company. It has to be available, obviously, it has to be unique, and you have to either register it for a number of years or just for 1 year, and it's renewable. So when you when the renewal period is up, you then get the option either to re-register it for another period of time or just to let it lapse, so you don't have to pay for it anymore and it becomes available for somebody else to use. Okay, web domains, email domains, map domains, subdomains. What do all these mean? Web domains. Web domains you're probably familiar with. They are website addresses, effectively. So WordPressWebDesignCourse.com is a web domain. Now, the fact that I own that domain means that I could actually use it for my email address as well. So I could have andrew@WordPressWebDesignCourse.com, and that would be the email domain in use. Now, mapped domains are one domain pointing to another and acting as if they are a single domain. So, for instance, I own the .com and the .co.uk version of WordPress Web Design Course, and I've got one mapped to the other. So the website itself is located on the WordPressWebDesignCourse.com domain, but if you were to put in the .co.uk instead of the .com, you would get to the .com version of the domain. And that's a mapped domain, or sometimes called a pointed domain or redirected domain. Subdomain. What is a subdomain? Well, www is in fact a subdomain. It's what appears in front of the main part of the web address. So www is the one that everybody knows, and they don't even know that it's a subdomain. But you might also create a subdomain for providing a support service, for instance. So support.wordpresswebdesigncourse.com would become a separate URL. So you could set up a separate website on it and deliver your support service through that subdomain. It's not widely used except by the big corporates use subdomains a lot to divide up their web design. Their web addresses into the kinds of use that they deliver. through the subdomain that they've created. Okay, moving on. Hosting, name servers, A records, MX records. So if I talk about hosting, I'm talking about some space on a server where your websites are going to be located. You need to set up an account with a hosting company, which we'll come on to later, and this is where you're going to locate your websites so other people around the world can actually visit them. Name servers are computers, effectively. They are really the glue of the internet, and there are lots and lots of name servers around the world, and effectively what they're doing is they are providing the a bit like the telephone exchange of the internet, if you like. They are converting the web domains that we use, the words or phrases that we use in our domain names, into the numbers that the computers understand, the IP addresses. And an A record is effectively an IP address which links to a website somewhere in the world, or at least links to a server somewhere in the world, a computer somewhere in the world that has got that website on it. And it's the name servers that work out from the web domain that you've typed in what the IP address is, and then they locate where that website is on which server anywhere in the world. And the name servers are updated all the time because obviously things change all the time. So there are lots and lots of name servers, hundreds if not thousands of name servers around the world, all doing this updating all the time and all communicating with each other and making sure everything's up to date. So an A record, importantly, an A record is for the website. An MX record does the same thing. It's still a number. It's a different number than the A record, but it relates to the email rather than the website. So A records, website, MX records, email. Moving on, single site hosting, reseller accounts, database hosting. So if I talk about single site hosting, I'm talking about some business perhaps that might just have one website. All they want to do is host one website for their own use. They're not developing sites for other people, so they have no need to have multiple sites. So you just need a single site hosting account for that. Now, if you're going to go on and do web development as a career, as a job, and develop websites for clients, then you're going to need a reseller account. So basically what that means is that you're able to provide a hosting facility to your clients whereby you pay a single monthly fee for an unlimited number of websites. So you can then resell that hosting facility to your clients and it becomes a revenue stream to your business. Database hosting. Most websites these days have a database behind them. This course is purely to learn how to use WordPress as a web development tool. And WordPress always has a database behind it. So it's the database that holds the content that is then used to build the page as it loads when someone visits your website. So if you're making a change to your website, what you're actually doing is making a change to the content of the database rather than any static code on the page. It used to be when the internet first came about, it was just static HTML, and if you wanted to change something on the website, you'd have to go into that static HTML, make the change, and then republish it. These days, you just make a change in the database, and then as the page loads, it dynamically pulls the content from the database, and that is what provides the content that the viewer of your website sees. FTP, the WordPress dashboard and plugins. Very quickly, we're going to cover this in more detail in later modules, but FTP means File Transfer Protocol. If you're familiar with either the Finder on Mac or Windows Explorer, this is what allows you to move files around, create folders, move files from one folder to another. Now, FTP allows you to do the same thing, but from one computer to another, that are not necessarily in the same room. So effectively, you would be moving files from your local machine to the server provided by your hosting company where your websites are located. This enables you to upload new bits of software, move images across, take backups, various things like that. We'll cover that in more detail later. The WordPress dashboard is what you see when you log into WordPress, and it's how you administer the content of your website. It's what you use to build the website in the first place, and it's how you move around and make changes to the content later on. Plugins are specific bits of software that do certain things, usually over and above what WordPress itself does. WordPress has limited functionality. It's incredibly powerful, but it has limited functionality. And in order to make things, in order to do clever things on websites, you may need a plugin. And that plugin may be written by the developers of WordPress themselves, or it may be written by a third party, so somebody else who's developed code to sit on the WordPress platform and work alongside it. Now, as an example, I use a plugin called Contact Form 7, which is a very popular plugin, and it provides the facility to create a contact form on your website so you can allow a visitor to fill in the form, and then effectively the content arrives to you in an email. Okay, and finally the header, navigation, sidebar and permalinks. These all relate to WordPress, but they're true for any website, whether it's developed in WordPress or not. A website is effectively divided up into sections, and there would be a header section, a navigation section, a sidebar perhaps, and the permalinks that are built as a result of the page names and various other things that you do within your website. I'm just going to very quickly skip to a website so I can show you what we're talking about here. So this top section is the header. This section here is the navigation, although the navigation can sometimes be down the side. Obviously a sidebar would be either on the left or the right hand side typically. We've also got a footer. That was not mentioned on the slide, but there's usually a footer as well. So if I scroll all the way down here, this is in the footer. And then we've got permalinks. Okay, so I'll just cover permalinks quickly. If I click on one of the pages in this website, what you'll see is the domain name at the top here then extends with a / site build in a day workshop. So that bit there, site build in a day workshop, is known as the permalink, or at least that's what WordPress call it. Now the permalink is really important from a search engine point of view. So as we go through the site building part of this course, I will probably refer to the importance of naming your pages correctly to make sure that the permalink is optimized as much as possible for the search engines to pick it up. So when I'm talking about permalink, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, that's it. Sorry about that. That was a bit boring, that part of the course, but moving on through the modules, it gets far more exciting because we get to start to actually install WordPress and build a site. See you in the next module.